safer and stronger, capitalizing on the golden moment of clarity and product fatigue. If someone insults your triceps, you insult them intellectually. If someone insults your nerdy hobby, you energetically throw them out of the window into the garbage disposal, hairy legs sticking up. Sometimes he was gentle, fascinated, patient and observing. A person present like wet depth, seems related to strength. Being fascinated by color combination moths, tear-jerking shimmering red dawns, women and the human condition. Some mistook it for complacency and insensitivity, showing nothing, but he could very actionable and emotional when it was finally time to act. The reservation and truth of the analyst. He had a conservative energy and reservation sometimes, but believed in left ideas, now being convinced by monologuing people, for big questions of freedom, equality, for the many, never having touched elitism. Maybe he showed a less conservative side when speaking, in the brilliance and tolerance of theory. He had a pet 1-meter deer, continental giant rabbit. These really exist, people have seen pictures, but there are also videos, that ate vegetables for him at £100 a month, called Sigmund the Destroyer. He was the light brown happiness with the big ears, his feet echoed like drums, dormant speed and giant size, dormant power, in many ways like a predator. He appreciated being fed these different vegetable shapes, stacked like vegetable cakes, and being seemingly safe. He realized eventually that there is no danger inside, just like James wanted him to think. But what if someone brought a dog? They had before. He viewed in front of the very sunny hobby with enough creative things room and looked out through the satellite room, white gleaming with sunlight from 2 giant windows, high up like a cat. He liked looking at different people, recognizable cosmopolitan human world, and was happy until stimulation from something else was needed. As a rabbit, things had to be familiar, and thus he would show his cute sides, and flop being in the way. He jumped of happiness, he just had to spend the energy and turned into a broadloaf. Rye. He was alert and cautious, easy to flight, but being 1.2 meters, there was a fair amount of reasonably fair ground. He knew he was a special kind of animal. Every animal was bewildered and curious, yet it was natural to be a big rabbit. He would not hold excuses, not pretend, not consider it. He had his fears of being alone, fears that could be reasoned away, but sometimes they were piercing. He scared cats and dogs. He would just charge and they would fear into paving the way. A charging rabbit is fearsome. Kids hugged and loved Sigmund. He realized he is as big as them sometimes, but from a prowling perspective. James thought he was always angry eating. Obviously he communicated what he needed and would consciously change, when it was that time. He was friendly with his human that came and went. He seemed quite alright with water and food, hay, cozy places to sleep, maybe not designed for rabbits, he contemplated. You don't expect these things, the fundamentals, and he kept shuffling my poop pellets. Insane thoughts occurred to Sigmund as this happened, animalistic yet coercing. He thought he had good temper for food compared to other animals, being fine with the swaying of oaks and time of the wind. The smaller rabbits seemed stupid, he couldn't help it. A large body means a large brain, he thought instinctively, it all aligned with reality. They could be wild and separated by a fence, really fun to meet rabbits alike. Surely he would meet someone like himself. He got nervous when he wasn't in the same room as James, he couldn't help it, the separation told him something of being small. He was a good person, or rabbit, doing as he is told. James didn't really notice he was compliant, shocked of instructions and fingers pointed. There is no point exercising, Sigmund thought. He got bored and tired quick, interested in the park foliage and contemporary safety. He communicated better with his mouth and licking, just like was a rabbit, just like there was strange alien-like purpose. But what purpose? What is there staying in here all the time? He wanted a beautiful garden, variety and tall grass. There was no second bunny, so his owner had to fill more awkward roles. He had an expensive apartment in London. All apartments in London are expensive, where everything was sleek, futuristic, black and white, artsy and claustrophobic. It was just 120 square meters, but he had fit in a lot of furniture. He was materialistic about his apartment, his TV, everything had to give an impression, of course, exhausting and a look into his mind. Artist on vacation, everything had a place. He used his considerable contemporary salary to buy living room set after fitting kitchen set. It made him feel personal. It's like the start of the Fight Club movie. He was good at memorizing parts of history. He analyzed deeply, really, and connected disparate things. It triggered him mildly first, but then the deep parts of his mind, where lecturing, he countered like an informed punch, something too true. He was already ready to pay attention and categorize history, to point out a fifth detail too far. He had the complete history of the world series, memorized gistly in 15 books, but thought it didn't go deep enough. What was the point of the left revolutions of South America? That's more important. The cost of making sure no enemies rise, despite the system being broken, despite bleeding. Why did America stop every single one? Even if communism doesn't work out so well in practice insofar, what is the threat to capitalism and how costly did it need to be to defend this broken system? Turns out when you're a thinker you like getting to the bottom of why and how things work, fascinated and unrelenting, unwavering, as you need it, every thinker taking the same path, not noticing each other, proper and thorough in a world. Curious in a way doesn't always make sense and exhausting to exert and listen to, but to get things going sometimes you need to have an extra fire lit under you. The energy to keep unwavering, countering with a second truth. If you miss the chance to be thorough intellectually, you might miss the differentiating part. Every personality, maybe out of 16, has their own kind of introverted under fire, especially the introverts, and the time to fit the intensity. 95% of people are thinkers, we're not orangutans. Unless differentiating personality types, thought James, mixing his protein powder with cocoa powder, blueberries, spirulina, algae and creatine in a white tank top. He was conscious of sulforaphane-like quantifiable health in a plant fiber and nuts-eating body. His supergenetics for strength gave him insight like a finger pointing inside, a feeling of your muscles of unevenness like balancing on a moving wheel. His mental health had set in his body, muscles for contemporary chiropractors and skewed growth, forcing her unbalanced hand-like trust into a lion. There was a mind for trajectory and flawless catching. The more he exercised, the more he noticed a Herculean endurance. Sometimes a golden consciousness of details told him, this is really not something other people do. So this is based on the averages of population, in my gym, city, of Englishmen, thought James. His power was dormant yet fluent, heavy repetition that felt proof and never really tiring because he was a mesomorph. Or was he? He could not really put a finger on it. Truth didn't really elude his mind. He was certain of pinnacle profoundness like philosophers. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be a beast, shoulders and everything. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be so smart. He defied nature and thought annoying for people in comfortable power. He defied God too, really, so he thought, cheeky bloke, posh. He had gotten so far in his perpetual gym peddling, it turned into monotone conversations about blunt realization and discipline unuseful. The V-shape gleamed good in contrast to the white. The room was comfortably dimly lit and would tell him to sleep if he had listened deeper. He had a smoothie of healthy dark green leaves, pure fiber beliving. This was gluten-free muffins, flax seeds nutty and cunning and long pepper. He would make another one and fit in the excess health like never being done, forgetting he had another 5 things to fit into his eccentric intelligence. Better safe than sorry. I need fiber, and I need omega fats from natural sources. In recovery for perfect recovery, he was in his routine of gymming and reading, both making him smarter, brain-derived neurotropic factor finicity vascular and through language. The prospect of reading is enough to increase IQ points. The efficient part is the language part, a contemporary invention by set brains or by any race. He was thinking about how there's the perfect and worst position in 4D chess or 5D golf. The smart thing to figure out here is, and how to beat 4D chess. There is not a certainty or probability cloud, but you have to go for the next best thing. If you had an AI being able to consider every, let's say, 1,000 positions, you would find the swing that moved the ball to the hole in 4D dimensions at the same time. Just look for it. You wait until you find the guaranteed best move. It's worth it when you hole in one twice per screen. Doesn't matter if they're different distance or velocity. What matters is differentiating swings. And the worst singular one, both backwards if you include that or falling over, limited amount of degrees. In 7-dimensional golf, there could be an uneven amount of middle ground in perfect cohesive swings. We must quantify strange infinites, listing exceptions to logic, or consider brackets like pre-thought to consider same proclivities. They're like a dip into an abyss, thus in thought. The feeling was light, hovering and lightly touching subjects. Was everyone unique, impressionable, who wanted to change the world a feeler then? More feeling than they thought maybe, so many people are just not impressionable or concerned. James was an ENTP Myers-Briggs personality, great personality writing. Concerned with ideas, future and theory, math, science, logic, abstract instead of practical, the intuitive extroverted engaging in the world giving him artistic blur and ideas, and being able to pick complicated relations seemingly from nothing, from a mind in the clouds in abstract trans contexts. No one else can do this actually. 6 brain areas are always activated instead of 2, relations. I've got it, they say. Clearly these far things relevant to people are connected like this. Worse at certain realistic things, in danger of getting realistically outpaced in armchair analysis. When an intelligent person feels like to analyze properly as you should, the others feel cheeky different interrupting urges. Surely this would be interesting to everyone and they would listen like in school or something, pushing their reasonableness and undoing the cheekiness like fate. Debating, innovating and being intuitive, changing himself and his surroundings into his visionary future. P, and then E for extroverted. The future, it depended on his intelligence. As an idea person, an ENTP's first run at an idea isn't their best, it's their last, all come out unfiltered. He was a man priding of constant improvement, who spends all their life without improvement. As long as you figure out you're good enough before the version, even nerds can turn into their strongest version in the gym, the strongest version really being strong here. Performance and maybe even perfection, not always seen and not always recognized like a deeper theory level, a lot of people's inner worlds can be surprising, hard to imagine and resounding like you failing to admit being bad at something, yet still intelligent. It's a different world than people who are just meeting the week's ends or studies to go to an expensive bar, maybe assertive in career, wealth or privilege, with more than a party or who live for final, too late vacations outside of work or excitement and stupid exciting risk. For those that live for gourmand experiences and the best of culture, for those that question and contrarian fit and conquer, for those that live perfectly confined in the illusions of society and those who don't. It's painstaking eternal cleanse, existing for the future and not the rewarding present, easily finding goals possible in 10 years, fit ambition on the good days and never recognition quick. The bane of realizing, improving everything mediocre, to become some sort of unit. Maybe an Ubermensch, quote Nietzsche on an breakthrough, breakdown day. When you're a thinker you spend your whole life learning for the sake of learning, never approved, comparing and improving always out of reach. When I would be perfect in brain, speed and brawn, everyone would respect me, they would bask in my glory and I would take it from there. Although when balanced he turned insightful, like everyone, coming like a new stranger, surprising him too, another exhausting idea for sharing, through easily interrupted. The introverted side people didn't see was that of a nerdy book reader, mathy and strategic, like a brilliant scientist, more dry, logical. The introverted logical part of the thinkers is supposed to be completely dry, even without creativity and intuition. Wouldn't want to not be logical, climbing societal ladders quietly, more so than the primary extroverted side, interacting with the world and gave him the creativity, resources and strategy to do so. It felt competitive but didn't have as much primary resources as some other people do, the very feeling indeed is auxiliary. In lack of ability against the smartest chessboard masterminds INTJ, for example, they feel they just need more time, or that they are still onto some good stuff. Every personality using their secondary function feel like they are onto some good stuff, respecting each other's confusing intuition, creativity. Some might never be reached because of the simple fact they are not introverted. Only 33% are introverted, but everyone has an introverted world, enjoying pursuing alone even when people leave, relaxing from responsibility, things kept for you and entertainment apps, exciting different like series binged and stories about people unknown unless you talk about it. The depth of the introvert is more surprising so to the way they talk about pen and paper. Enjoying expanding the limits of his knowledge and intelligence, he had a thirst for knowledge and performance, strength that was hard to understand unless measuring up when beaten. Like a voice telling him to inappropriately do something insanely silly, everyone's eccentricities and quirks make sense when they're doing the right thing. Some of the weirdest people are good at explaining things thoroughly for newcomers, but they also need to listen, match. He could spend time with people, drink and cheer, but also a long time alone as an ambivert. Ambiverts get energy from people but are too sensitive to keep it for long. Like a sadness over a truth. He was an intellectually overexcitable typical in intellect, imagination, at least he had an imagination and psychomotor. Incredibly, excellent active mind, extreme desire to synthesize truth, morals, contemporary theory, to analyze and categorize and think about thinking. He could be a lone wolf, but not as bad as the introverted thinkers. The ENTP is the extrovert with the biggest introverted side. Their mind is a fine place to be alone with, not just the existing world. Some other smart things he was thinking about. He could have been a professor in any science, but he was lazy, waiting for spurs of energy, comfortable backseat and reliable results. Don't think of quantum physics as logic with exceptions, think of it as exceptions with logic, throw the logic out the window. To get James' attention you could talk about comfortable things but not comfortable enough, flashes of enthusiasm, the nerd in his right element, and neuroticism. He was almost afraid sometimes, waiting for everything to line up for his intelligence pushing thing annoyingly one step further each time. One must not be afraid of aunts and accountants, blazing argumenting peers. In life to be pushed over is optional. Life is full of 100 moments when you have backed down, really, not choosing the bravest option. Sometimes you had to wait for James annoyingly to present ideas and retort, otherwise he would be thorough and logical at levels to feel threatened. Maybe he would learn better timings being nervous and neurotic, everything takes its time. If you quantify the next logical thing, a sequence of theory, a higher exponentiality, what's the next smart thing in physics after electron position into a probability cloud? We think it must functions as 7 times 7 or 7 to the power of 7 or necessarily 7 to the power of 7, but it is not necessarily true, it is just nonlinear, random, unquantifiable, unless where it is. What is silly over time quantified? First twist contemporary. James had a body he had carefully built with steroids over the last 10 years with a brilliant eccentric theory to training. researched like a scientist in muscular lab coats and best of the best knowledge of nutrition that few really knew about at this point. Just look at these natural athletic performance enhancers. Sometimes pivoting in books he felt lucky to read, that is potential. Googling the right efficient gym questions for the perfect gym session. Although he had spent the last half his life, like many others, learning about the perfect gym session. Like perfecting a sculpture learning theory and quickly feeling like monologuing. Explaining like fairly scientific, everyone explained like this is true and meta. So many YouTube videos, exercising vlogs from average people who just did steroids, that is the cycle. You find a new fitness YouTuber, they talk about a different exercising, then they just took steroids. If they seem incompetent, saying normal things or nervous about the results. But literally being brilliant, thus he walked around with the perfect updated theory like golden seer, if people would only ask. If you're not gaining enough muscle, you must go back to the 8 basics. Interesting basics of going crazy but not too far, protein but also eating copiously, professional calorious usually kept back by working out twice per day. Intensity and recovery was respected, he would go through each in his mind, chiseling and perfection. Being a vegan for now, he force-fed himself salad to get enough calories, fatty oils, the few vegan oils with saturated fat, like coconut, shea and palm. What a stupid thing to do it was. When you take steroids you lose your mind, not just your dingleberries. Jesus, liver thinks you're an alcoholic. He had figured out a way back with foods that increase learning speed and problem solving, but if there was only a way like with magic things could be solved. Thankfully this is a fantasy book. For now there was a muscle monster posing the most impressive. He knew every number that could be given to a muscle fiber and water content, every thought to theoretical and time for every exercise and intensity. Reps and short recovery. The strongest nerd had figured it out. How much does variety help versus the best exercise for every muscle group? Cocoa powder gave as much grip strength as creatine. Athletic performance enhancers were sometimes cheap too and he used for anti-cancer properties, etc. He used 6, like nutritional yeast, spirulina algae, black peppermint oil, hard fenugreek tea seeds, maca roots, ashwagandha, rosenroot and a nitrate diet, giving him a whopping 50 to 60% increased athletic performance. Exactly endurance, speed and strength. The legs went by themselves. Repetition was a thing in theory and he had a huge advantage over other steroid users. There was no chill and then he was ready to go again after 2 hours where others needed 20. Legendary exercising routines he had, capable of doing heavier and longer than anyone else. By the way, the gym sessions were 3 hours each. He liked the atmosphere, aluminum can sound and the smell of the plastic mats at the gym. He would almost disassociate before going into the zone of muscle genetics. Gym luxury affected him a lot, like does the reward he's looking for his efforts. Thusly pinnacle beastum musculum felt like he could just add more and more weight on some muscle groups. It really was an unbreakable endeavor. Like a hero, he was supposed to have this perspective and position. He was a gym monologuer, ever chiseling at the perfect gym session and advice, a never-ending narration with new and recurring points. People didn't know the latest science and they didn't know the essentials. People didn't rest or they were lazy. Philosophized, did he feel right in the muscle contracting or was it a fake distraction? Which contraction is a distraction? To interpret and direct false cognizance. His small perfect packages of advice like a tweet max 280 letters, in the gym, the ENTP being the best to synthesize their thoughts into coherent, well-worded exactly what they meant. He wanted things to be easy, focusing on the biggest things, respecting every gym traveler no matter where they were. Lots of people weren't too interested in improving even double gains, or being wrong. A real lightweight connoisseur is humble in being wrong about everything, only putting in the effort to be considerable good enough to learn more. He focuses on what he knows he does not, and unwell. He surveys information like weak and tells people like he is growing slow. Twist contemporary too. He fought in old-fashioned medieval games as an unit, knight style. They really exist as long as you can afford the armor, just like back before and don't hit below the steel belt. He got excited for the Knight World Championships as much as anything. Light armored macemen with 40 functional helmets designed like unique for a person, there was protection, vision and leather sideburns. Dual wielding axes, round shield or no shield, modern arbalist invention shooting point blank all through a third of the arrows of a bow. Shooting through plate, but point blank bows were very plate piercing similar. Two-handed maces like made out of Japanese wood, double maul ends, or hammers being too heavy always like an equation, bald and pale users egregious. Polearms and steel plate are way too good, like an erect castle you don't think about damage underneath. There's always a vulnerable no armor point to a knight, maybe one should judge technique and get extra point for other things than just whacking steel. Suggestion, 1 point for every hit or just enact medieval computer games in real life, they got it figured out. Let's see who wins in a free-for-all. His first weapon of choice was a triple-equipped polearm because it could be used as a spear, slice on the front or hammer at the back. The length could make the mace weaker, like air-resistant. You have to put strength behind expecting to hit a wall. A wall to smash through. With the range a cleaving menace, like longer two-handed swords he scrutinized. Secondly, a giant Japanese two-handed katana, nodachi, he wore in one hand. The dual wield was unrelenting and truly menacing. James thought of every dual wield to be unique and problem-solving to a shield, and reliable when switched around. Also, you weren't allowed to hammerplate. It's considerably more expensive, upsetting, efficient. James was an expert of medieval games, weapons, defense and theory. You wondered if there was enough information to reasonably being an expert, but there was. There were medieval people working warfare and inventing anyway. James were clever in dimensions of clanging steel, arcs of arbalist, archery and trebuchet. He had vivid images that almost seemed real, taking up his time like a blinking light. He could swap the wield for defense with a spiked mace, an elongated thick glaive kiteshield, meaning it was sharp as a sword in the end. Often you can smack, stun and stab with your shield in combat. There is more to this simple defensive position. Maybe the enemy is so within the reach of the shield blade, yet trying to go through it. Full black plate armor, white, gilded gold, some places smooth, or arms and legs free, both had their advantages. Better with a kiteshield than armor if I could just choose one, thought James strategically, masterfully and a bit playful competitive. Block and slash where my arms go thus. A crowd favorite was his armored boxing. Everyone loved Knight's boxing furiously. Some of these guys stun like a warhammer with their fists through plate. With weapons like the polearm, James also put 4 1-decimeter glaives into his right gauntlet. A polearm is only dangerous at the pointy end. Closer attacks were stabbed with his gauntlet George steroid unicorn pants thus.
As a rhetoric question.
Everything changed like a chapter, but not yet. Where one evening after hot medieval games he heard someone sniggering in his computer corner thus. There was nothing there. It seems he was being sent incredibly suggestive Gachi Muchi songs. There goes another one. Something was just too ridiculous to keep a straight face. Specifically trying to communicate, what is this you're listening to, human? The London people in this neon light London night had no idea what would happen. What's the Jimmy? Did Santa fill your Christmas sock with propane? Thank you, Father, Jimmy said with the voice of a mesmerized adult. Revealed in silly overtime, James stretched out his hand into his apartment nothingness and felt temperature difference, cold, something wet, suction and stretching of his mind. Things changed as he stuck around. That could only mean aliens, deducted panicky James. They must be serious sternly as per needed basis, but this through sensitivity that too ridiculous for the paid work thus. Advanced civilization through technology, carefree world where we toil in despair and worry. Technology advances pretty quick with just 1,000 years through for anyone, or ourselves. More sensitive and smarter than your imagination, James used his imagination. James had read about the most common alien encounters on Wikipedia and thus imagined the Scandinavian-looking alien, a cousin to humans, with multiple eyewitnesses being terrible at parking his spaceship, concerned with spiritual paths. James realized just thinking about summoning aliens, and summoning, chanting annoying should be enough. James had been scientifically open to aliens because of the prominence of 1,000 planets with life conditions like Earth. The 4 thinker personalities believe in aliens the most. Look at the pollution they exert into the atmosphere seen through color gas cameras. But what do you do now when you actually meet one now? Partying. What be thine alien, grey, homunculus, Scandinavian cousin? Stop sending out shuttles looking for life. We're right here, I admit it. James thought, can you think what I think, and then said it. And feel what you feel, Jim Human. He looked like a mix of grey alien and something taller 3 meters forsooth. There was width and longer limbs, connected intimidation and speed of predators. Did you figure out time travel yet? Countering with poshness, James was ready to have a pleasant, well-mannered conversation. It only works with special fashionable Alpha Centauri hamsters, thus digitally put through non-AMD graphics cards. Just recently, the humorless voice answered, it was unexpectedly difficult, like learning a new language difficult, like being unable to master. Time, space, dimension, machine and spiritual opening at the same time. Not a lot of people thought of that. It can't happen to me, and let me guess you cannot show thus. No human unit, think of 5 reasons why. I am one of the smartest humans. Unexpectedly he said, very well, nice job, human. What about pollution balance, population? Shut up, right-mannered argument. Unexpectedly and tiresome, James pulled out a peculiar gun. If you threaten me, you will always think to rectify the situation, think diplomatically, you will come to compensate, think up new ideas, but smart boy, you will never be smart enough to figure it out. I wish there was a time where a bullet didn't win against every duel, thus and everything, the accuracy wins, I shall win. There is no skill, no time to think. The cool things now is the size of the firearm and based on perceived results. I wish there was a time of plated knights, feudal samurai or limited weapons in mixed martial arts, foldable chairs, bows and Morningstar, another siege of Edinburgh Castle. The alien man dodged like morphing, swirling through a dash, cheating through the human technology. The alien took his wrist, coldly threatened, and he was indeed pulled through a cascade of time and colors, but it felt like his feet were still on the ground. He had been transported to medieval London 1,000 years ago. He was ostracized with a katana adachi and 18 bullets in a time of arbalist and warhammer, blood and ice, wine and piss. What could the value be of 18 one-shots like an electric wizard, 18 jewels of fate, 18 times to show off being from the future and convincing of the magic, like a prodigy? Chapter 2.
Let's go over here.
A few days later, a pleasant 2 weeks. Weeks of toiling through spiritual productivity, technically and intellectual performance. They were sitting in the university benches being considered with own theories and papers. What if there's another plane? What shall be our next plane? The planets are connected like cousins. Unless the dimension is flat and demanding. Everyone knows of the Coffee Caribbean Islands, Grand Island Plain. Let's go, there are beans and legends. Caribbean on Earth is not discovered. The place is 50% oxygen compared to Earth's 20%. It will make for different species and generous ability, evolution. You will get used to it, it's not dangerous, makes the rum taste better, great sleep like waking up lucky and with enough pressure to the chest the oxygen recovers the brain. True. You might just as well pressure with your arms pushing your chest. I say let's align with the French. There is strategy between every territory and they're all eager to have us. Fine, let's go through stormy lightning jetting night through the portal of dimensional greed. I will sell my service and competence like a new set contemporary. Legendary, ENTJ, Pirate Napoleon Rebluchon, not Bonaparte, was about productivity, excellence, productivity, efficiency and productivity. He had a plan for everything, but an INTJ would have had two, and when there wasn't action he thought of strategies. What is his purpose spiritually being so rare yet so focused on society and thoughtless work? Maybe it is not about work. Maybe it is the sensitive plan and determination behind society, a hidden angle. There was action about him, speaking so quickly and with such indignation to work. Maybe he'd be reincarnated as flashy Steve Jobs. Which is also an ENTJ actually, it's the past, but not while I'm writing this. He had dreams and career dreams, like a strategy but in a dreamlike state. This had some sensitivity, but the one to ruin their plans is usually their neurotic bad mental health, or likelier than tough words with toughness that's met like summoning a first layer of tolerance. Napoleon was a man that was as tough as it gets. Like James, let's see if they will argue about anything. A leader with a powerful arsenal of friends, he made friends with thinkers and was a self-improver compared to their super-efficient group counterpart, the boss or secretary personality. One-letter difference, ESTJ. There are many differences, for example how they are when they are not whipping people into efficiency, Napoleon being too tough and showing no emotion, maybe, being abstract in intuition like something reached blindly in a dream, being kind of intuitive while showing no emotion. These personalities are both very sensitive like to their five senses, like reflexes, so much input for their brain and through people, all through being in their mind more, the world disappearing like distractions. ENTJ being vulnerable to cruel truths, cruel acts, feedback, recognition and acceptance, about his abilities perhaps and shifting cold speech. This is the very sensitive thinker perhaps, like sensitive senses, behind a tough group leading exterior, it's tough like impossible intelligence, fueling a retort, all business, no bullshit. Every thinker struggles with emotional expression, but this guy is really going to get slapped presumptuously. A thinker knows how to express emotions all the way until it stops in his mouth. In efficiency there is not always time for emotion, if everyone cared for you smallest details, but smothering details might just the right thing to do sometimes. But he was about group strategic productivity then business. He was a thinker businessman in this world, shrewd, accomplished in a world of strategy, a game where the others didn't even a foot in. And climbing ladders of capitalism that was like a quest of honor, statistically being happy and good at all sorts of work, lended like an efficient arm. This is not near the 1700s but at the 1000s newly discovered Chinese black powder for weapons. Medieval pirates. A remarkable aromatic burned Neapolitan. He had made coffee in the plain Caribbean coffee bean islands. It was as pungent as perfume, but didn't taste like perfume. It fell short with milk through, and the old ladies around the islands drank coffee quick. To drink coffee like water is being focused on logistics. It traded competitively around the islands, but people like Count, Viscount, the Count were ready to invade his vineyards. Stormy, he had been stopped at the docks and 6 ships were broadsiding. In the dark bottom storage, Napoleon found Viscount carrying off his produce. Like a sinner, but the kind of predator to not be startled while getting caught, but steal harder. En garde. Stop in the name of Caribbean island coffee, still competition and force of Napoleon Rapier's contemporary. I got your product figured out. Viscount was known as a great sculptor, making 7 sculptures already of himself. You wouldn't destroy my produce, if you could never have it. Viscount's huge white ponytail like captain's hat looked aristocratic. He was the best dressed on the battlefield for sure. And incredibly flamboyant. No, I wouldn't. He raised his white gloves and 2 luxurious rapier. They fought with rapier cutlass, a new argument. Pirate Napoleon shot a grape shot big as a fist from his long musket. Viscount rolled like he was playing Dark Souls, and Napoleon destroyed his own mahogany desk, embers flashing his beard. Viscount stabbed for his heart greedily twice, but was superiorly deflected. Viscount was fast and maybe weak. He would figure out that soon every thrust was piercingly deflected. Napoleon made a 6 slash on his chest, sacre blue candle ha. And Viscount disarmed through the pain, defeated. An irrefutable piercing point. He felt like he had never worked out, but I guess there was no armor. Upon the decks, pirates fought without much clothes and armor, winning a battle that could determine the next. Viscount has been taken, yield unto us. Comically, a lot of pirates tried to calm each other into stopping fighting. It's over, stop fighting, Viscount has been defeated. As the pirate said this, shot a pirate in the face accidentally, looking at the crew. He opened his voice to speak, but instead caught a flying chicken in his mouth. It fluttered upset and confused. A pigeon took a shit on his shoulder like experimental painter. Your pirates are standing on a knife's edge. Edge of a knife. A pigeon took a shit on his shoulder. Explosive splat. Thank you, pigeons. Can you aim better next time? Thus another pigeon shit on his next shoulder. I am beyond any pigeon shitting, he said bravely. They are nothing compared to me. I don't even see them. Napoleon tarred Count and shot him through a cannon straight up. He looked like a smoked chicken leg and in pain from contemporary cannonmanship. A golden fleeced, disproportionately 1 meter large legs and ears bunny came to Napoleon's side with pink shining antlers, Windlands the golden-footed. You can have the new vineyard. Fort and I almost drank these barrels of smoked habanero Henry Bourgeois, and these delicacy ribs made from half plants and magic. They have a bit back. I buy my release. Smoky blacked hair ruined Count Seth. Find your captain. In a culverin, Viscount was fired 30 meter into the sea painfully, and his crew ran like theater pals concerned with their leader. Shit. He's a pussy, but at least he cares about the environment. If I wasn't such a versed coward, I'd care more about him losing. It's great working for him. He is a sensitive coward, many books. I am efficient and I am enjoying the circumstances of work. The Coffee Bean Islands were like a huge island territory, flying migrating whales with ghost light green luminescent undersides, except for the northwest and a huge hole of water in the middle plus 4 islands. There were 7 territories, 8 colonies and 9 pirate factions fighting. Elves, France, England, Dwarf, Italy, Spain, China, with the 8th colony being barbarian and 9th pirate faction, the penniless corsairs. You were not allowed to eat the cows, sheep and even goats here, because they produced the cheese. The wine was warm, fruity and 50% like juice, and was a place of nutty, chocolatey, creamy and bitter coffee. The sport was a deconstructed version of baseball with more interrupting contemporary rules and 16 bases with more dangerous, longer streckers, different balls and magic allowed in 5 instances that usually ended up with everyone drinking wine then fighting each other. This was a place where people drank more wine than beer, dark rum over spirits. Because of the wine culture, drinking low percent wine was okay. Like contemporary, everyone being pliant with the new reasonable. And for teenagers it was served in school, maximum 2 cups. Turns out alcohol makes you forget what you learn, oh well. Just like in France. Smoking wisdom stem, clarity leaf, Laggard's bountiful cheeky retort and Cuban cigars was also legal at 16. A land a delicacy for some, a land of making money for those with taste buds. Everyone wanted the best, latest gourmand thing, ready to pay for it. There were breadsticks, chocolate chips and peanut hazelnut chocolate pizza. They had restaurants like Religious, kept up to 14 icons of chefs and maximum 14 rating, kept reviews, new cuisine, fusion cuisine. The food reviewers were cruel and feared, ready to be presumptuous. People cried at their qualms, ready to argue, accept or both. You had to be traditional or creative depending on the food critic, really. The latest places, some affordable once in a while, they blew romantic experiences together, a cute time, but they savored the food more. Fat people were held to different conversations. They knew how it was here. The chefs were supposed to be overweight. The chocolate was sacred. When you bought another 100 grams luxury piece for €7. They were complete, covered in flowers and delicacy coffee roses. There were peanut butter, dark chocolate and raw chocolate, except for the pistachios and dried berries giving the flavor. There were standards by Chocolate Committee guaranteeing 50% chocolate and ingredients. Must be quite enjoyable working there, getting batter and shut up chocolate. The committee were tremendous in wanting change and talking about audacious rights. Would have inspired Churchill. Olive oil and barbecue sauce was the religion, sacred, sold in artistic bottles, talked about like frail relatives, like dirty allowance. People sat outside the delicacy stores, having coffees to choose between, remarkable pricing per cup. Brutes and pirate magicians respected the old ladies, drinking like experts, sharing in their ability to communicate, hold back things and speaking with manners, concerned with the world of old people. So much time we spend being old and without hair. Once you lose the top, it's over. From 50 to 100 there is half a life being content, being less competitive. And the more coffee the islands drank, the older they got, spending quite a lot of time with white hair, through no one knew quite why they got old, like elixirs and lactose. Inside the delicacy shops, which were magical and sized like forgetting, the pirated lummoxed and considered price and value, duration and experience. Some olive-fried Italian snacks could be eaten for 20 minutes. No one seemed to mind the Italians then, a golden air of tolerance, like conversations about theatre. Of olive oil, balsamico and sauces, there were ancient shaped, supremely legendary priced bottles, like 100 or 500 quid. They were shaped like cauldrons and elixirs. People imagined the taste and would not be disappointed. Of course, some delicacy tastes are hidden like a fainting parrot, but when you go back to normal priced rice snacks, it is weighed like piercing. Sometimes they were stolen, but were insured by the state. There had been quite a need for this change. In the quite lethal pirate book of handcrafted laws, there were the protection of the taste parched and correction of swaying drunk masters. Piracy was common as Saturdays or maybe weekends in blinking anguish, time being contemporary and trickster. Everyone had practiced fencing, cannoneering or hired muscle. Anti-piracy politicians were not ambitious and usually took cigars from the side, but the golden age of coffee beans actually was not yet. They drank wine in the arguing lower rooms and smoked the cigars between savory lies. The pirates lathed treasure, robbed each other and glided free. They found hoards of treasure and gold to spend in French gilded ports, then competitively fought group to group, making territory. Offense was better than defense. Cigar smoking masters clasped their heads and they lost 2 territory for 3. It was possible that the most annoying defense, more defense than offense, was required, just large armies or majors, animals and ships. The 13 seas were unexplored. The free pirate ports were cozy, small countries luxurious, cheeky and with advanced defense, cannonballs and inventions, headed by pirate captains in shipwrecks. There was a castle of a shipwreck, huge yet still shipwreck. One devious plot was paying pirate ports to raid, let's say, Port Salut of its defenses, then you siege in and claim the port yourself. People changed ports often and nationalities. There goes the castle and its provincial yards again. Some pledged loyalty, some turned into mixes of flags, many tried their best. The French were very pleasant with their workers' laws. We see our hero James, after getting here, finding himself in a fine ass establishment, small dancing room in the Royal Port Salut Ball. He had bribed the guard and smooth talked himself into the privilege. The small orchestra was going crazy on classical music, speed and intensity technical to metal, wigs flailing. James was dancing like a god, tearing it up with his extreme sports designer wheelchair. He did one-wheel wheelies and break dances with. Our boy could spin on his head, arms out, wheelchair balancing skewed on uneven legs. How did he do this? Although daughters, the governors were 50 and the daughters 30. People were only interested in the beautiful daughters. In the end, the posh contestants applauded each other and the boy James grabbed the port's governor's daughter, huge bosom and slender waist, let her see the room upside down from his grip, then he kissed her passionately. These daughters could be beautiful like this, with hair up in knots, ginger, blonde and auburn. Thus he exited on his insane magical, black power engine wheelchair, steering with XXL arms and bloody veins popping. His arms looked like he raced wheelchairs. He asked the daughter shorter, humble, linear and contrite. She liked being taller for now, but could have enjoyed it more. Would you like to sit in my wheelchair? Dwarven technology this is. She sat like a rescued dame. They blazed off in the luxurious governing halls with pitiful pastel coloring, James flying up the walls and looping the ceiling, avoiding people in the way. This was a common tradition. You might have won my heart over dancing again, James. I think for you I have a look at these fine gifts. There are spare artsy parts like bonus quarterly wine. You are rich like doubt. 3 rapiers, stabbing weapons, with luxurious artsy guards, detailed like getting new glasses and correcting someone. I don't have a rapier, fine amethyst. You bought me an amethyst. Quite. James procured a ruby from his pocket with at least shades of pink. Join me, fair lady, for a wheelchair race, fishing of exotic laziness and rum drinking on a sunny beach. Like sinners are we, in lieu of toiling work and beautiful places forbidden. I love this amethyst, sure I'll go, yes it's with your Cuban friend. Our eyes love treasure as these ideas. Enter tropical fishing hut and beach, with Monsieur Mansion on the hill aft sunny vineyards. You know this James, the adventurer and collector of keys now, said Napoleon. Quite a charming rogue, said daughter Vice, daughter of all actors the governor. I like it when he tries to be posh and luxurious. He has a lot of money, people say, he's an adventurer, successful one. Don't ruin it. Rev up, gentlemen. James and Olivia with one wheelchair each revved and revved. Eventually fire was starting to break at the bottom wheels. And they're off, zoom, like greased lightning. James had such a lightning start, but somehow, Olivia is keeping up with him, he's gaining in insanely muscular strides. They pushed each other, wheelchair carnage. James hit the railings of the docks and glided until he had to jump a 2-meter gap down to the next railing. James tried and tried his best, but heart-sinking, eventually Olivia rounded him. Finish around the beach. Well, Mr. Olivia was as muscular as steroids themselves, arms like a caricature. Intelligently Napoleon didn't mind saying, so we are 3 thinkers here, everyone exceptional, I think together we'll be a proud coffee gourmand office. Whatever thus, allegedly. So you don't mind working for me, French and coffee business, you will be my muscle, another territory gambit, fixer and mixer. Olivia spends all his free time mixturing with chemistry, and I don't think he sees beyond his routines, a care beyond employment only when he really has to. Olivia didn't hear this like he was selectively deaf. Be careful of the somewhat greater jungle demon, they are green and black colored like vines. Yeah, they're pretty dangerous. There's also the really quite proper jungle demon. Really, they are part of a worshipping cult of god Engelbrecht. They guard entrantments to the several-layer dungeon mook and poisoned dandelion where pirates go to be squished. They are intelligent unless asked normal, chivalrous questions. Indeed. Oh dear. And on this French part of the island we have 6 meters brown jungle pumas called cappuccino macchiato. Don't pull them in the balls or the tail. They can also reverb fart and go 20 meters into the sky. You're not a man unless you can pull a puma in the balls, said Olivia imposingly. Shut up, muscle KNUT, said Napoleon. Where I come from, Cuba, we say, not all that glitters is gold, not all pumas you can pull balls down. You're not smart like this, it is borrowed words, said Napoleon. They think they're such big kitties, I can beat a puma with my fists or maybe a staff. They just bite in the throat to suffocate, that's all they have with their big arms. Just protect yourself from the claws, wrestle with this fat cute cat. I'm surprised the cheetah doesn't just tackle its foe with its speed. Is there an animal like this? The rhino is weight plus force, but where I come from we realize the peregrine falcon can reach 385 kilometers per hour. You don't see the bird, you just see the seagull getting clapped. We have the jungle penguin, the Akron penguin. They're terrible at everything unless underwater. They're graceful swimmers, some birds or mammals who wonder if they're just victims, a life of being a blob. They can be very good at reproduction. There are giant herbivores without defense and used to be giant sloths. Teach me the ways to make coffee, Napoleon, my mind has never been larger. So how much free coffee is in the deal? Honestly, I drink about 10 cups a day, and tea. I exist in a state without minerals, he said, friendly, conveying secrets of competence and confidently. The cheapest stuff, Sunshine Raisin Meadows, you can have as much as you like. The Aroma coffee, maybe not. Can I try your best coffee? Aroma 1 and 2, no milk. That coffee has a punch of excellence yet strange lands. Strangest beans. I get it, milk ruins the antioxidants we figured in the future. He's kidding, right? No, we had a longevity thing, country by country already in our habits. No one would say no to drinking more coffee to get less cancer and heart disease, not British people. Black tea works too, almost as good as green, don't bind the antioxidants to the milk protein. Tea leaves are healthy enough diluted, or you can eat whole powder, matcha tea. Do you think it would sell, live longer, drink our luxurious coffee? James. Not bad, man. Well, we are trying to make our customers drink it black anyway. Be honest, right? Drink it black, also associated with living years longer. Stop adding milk. Who cares about the flavor, really? Snort. Great text. Years, just what I not know from your experience. More like 1 to 2 years. Green tea repairs DNA 2, telomeres. It's beans, coffee beans are antioxidants, the power of beans. You see these oak arms? James slapped his biceps. This is mostly made of beans, you know, chickpeas, lentils, vegan stuff. I made sure as long I have worked out, the muscle fiber came from vegetarian sources. I doesn't feel like I'm a step behind and muscle fibers forced to act and sacrifice youth, green muscle. Your vegan bodybuilding diet is so fucking funny, said Olivia. Beans, unable to contain himself, then he started on a wheezing laugh. He was confident in his old ways, ready to be very ambitious with this structure, gym ambition. Napoleon didn't lift heavy weight, but he could fence thus. Enter coffee and coffee chocolate with a different air, expectations of air and different thou. This is aroma Napoleon, you know of our legacy. James, Olivia smelled and sipped intently. 5-second silence. Jesus Christ, that might be one of the best things I have ever drunk. So much aroma, so much flavor. The chocolate flavor comes for about a second and it's like something chocolate related I never tried. Chocolate beans. There is sweetness like plum or vanilla, gentle like sugar was not invented yet. I would be fine with this if there was no sugar. We have mocha coffee in my history, which is in the future, anyway, half hot chocolate, half coffee. Could change the coffee around there, it's a bit limited like a gourmand hot dog. People don't buy the expensive coffee, I can't figure it out. Olivia enjoyed it in silence and he wiggled it like tea. I'm used to this flavor now, Napoleon, Olivia said. Well, it is a bean, James. It's 30% Blue Mountain, the best and most expensive bean in the world, followed by chocolate Black Mountain, Gold Rush beans, something that grows here like a gold mine. I secured the land with a heavy investment. Thankfully I was the highest bidder, he said poshly. Power of beans. Power of beans, Napoleon went for a hillbilly impression. The chocolate they sold with the coffee was like melted chocolate rich for seconds and then nothing. This is our main seller, even if it's expensive, aroma Napoleon. Yeah, this is supposed to be had black, I can tell, said James. This makes me feel acute and smarter, said Olivia, impossibly deep and impressionable. So it changes flavor what 4 to 5 times, I barely have patience for this. I sense dark and bitter transformations. I guess it could have even more expensive and luxurious punch. More of the same, also very aromatic 10 out of 10 coffee, the other was 9. I guess it has distinct transformations, said Olivia. He was pleased and pleasant. I am a bit stuck on how to change my product, unless we're talking about this smoky bourbon coffee. Change the beans, said James, out of 10 changes 1 will be good. To be honest, I'm not a very typical worker, I'm an abstract, improvising idea working worker. I would work the best in science, or constantly improving something like a rocket to space. The half of people who aren't planners are improvising through and adaptive. They do things and in random directions, maximizing their energy, spontaneity. Anything with moving arms can do this job, said Napoleon. Just do what I tell you to do. Interesting opinion. Everyone is spontaneous sometimes. I know a poison that would improve the flavor, Olivia said, suddenly detached and insane. Can you make it non-poisonous? Napoleon. No, the flavor is the poison. Okay, first we take a vacation, am I right? I have English colony Barbados rum, said Napoleon. Last time I was in English Barbados I was drunk for a month, cheap suzzled through. Stupid winds blew me to Point Pitter, Harridan, the flying axeman. Olivia. Wake up in a bathtub puking tequila and glitter. I heard vampires like drinking your blood if there's rum. James. With a linear brain, Olivia was insulted by this. He was however more concerned with laying on the beach and drinking rum. Onto a beach, next to the hut they tasted coffee. James shared the rough sunglasses he had made out of onyx and a spell and told them how to do Sudoku, 3 pretty difficult pieces he had made as a genius. They drank coffee and rum and spoke leisurely. Napoleon in many ways didn't seem relaxed, but in his mind he was focused. He did on performance constantly, speech, sell and unite, and now he did almost subconsciously. What do you think about our competition's coffee, Napoleon? I have read the same paragraph 5 times now. You're going to have to stop talking, said Olivia. His newspaper was huge. We have strong competition, James. They are brewing as per their traditions, technological, and they are clever. Olivia, I got so drunk at one point and maybe mellow I decided to float on sea with a drink floating log, banished from bars. I didn't care wherever I would float. I found a huge marooned island, lost on maps. You can try to leave but there is an infinite amount of alcohol. Bottle and thus another bottle, masters of fencing, marooned. I tried strange bottles that were pushing in punishing directions, yet very good. A mountain of ever-finding treasure, they tasted like in a dream, they didn't feel disappearing like a spirit yet I feel lost. I thought of you a foreman of hell. I have been in many places, when old I will tell I've had a life. How long were you there? There are many places off the maps, spirals reaching the sky. There is a place further up than heaven, on different clouds here. Mythical animals, stranger fruit, the potential of insanity and the end of time. I don't think anyone should feel grey, desolate like losing your grip, in dreams of despair, dark dreams of reality. It's not me that there's wrong with, it's the world. I cannot hold on forever, until fear becomes sedation in pain. James felt now Olivia was very relatable, he knew this world. Vice laid on top of James' chest small, feeling rich, fascinated and affectionate. She was a fan of James. Are you trying to get me drunk? She had to point out this exception automatically. I have never tried to get someone drunk, I think. Maybe who I'm trying to get drunk is myself. Then came the rabbits, Spartacus and the golden Napoleon pelt. The rabbits quickly realized they were rabbits and flopped on the beach, all exteriors out, as they do when feeling safe or for any reason. Spartacus had hints of jealousy of the golden fleece. The golden rabbit is an angora, they don't mind being cut. I made a small house and bed inside for the rabbit, for the bed he loves me. Rabbits need friends, they light up with non-human company, like guinea pigs, could use guinea pigs. I know guinea pigs, but we can only get 100 at a time. How am I supposed to afford another golden rabbit? Do you think the rabbit wants some coffee? James presented a mug. The rabbit slurped and thought it was interesting. Strange human beverages. Are the humans all like this? A bit dark, could have been less acidic with the medium strength. He looked at Olivia, then went back for more. The rabbit is going back for more. That's good coffee in it, said James. Wow, I need some caffeine thus. I learned this fluffy and conditioning hairspell. That's why I have such perfect hair, said Vice, looking like a croquembouche. Well kept up like that it looks almost like a perfect wig. With pink bubbles and cream, soon the rabbits were enjoying the wash. Floof, the royal pelt looked royal as Spartacus had prize-winning hair. The rabbit felt like zooming and included the other rabbit. Come here rabbit, said James to the golden fairly large 1 by 0.5 x 0.5 meter rabbit. I am also knowledgeable in geography, biology and politics. Vice. I know geography like the back of my hand. Antananarivo is the source of pineapples and Bandar Seri Begawan the beginning of Bacardi Benders. The most northern capital is Ottawa and southern, cold too, thus Wellington. Driest desert is Atacama. Fortunately the price of water doesn't always go up so much with the population living in the desert like lunatics. There are 3 types of deserts. Governor just wants to wed me off, but I think we're powerful enough, more like a regular wedding. I am one of the geniuses of modern cosmopolitan London. How can you be a genius of history? There is nothing to write. Rewriting. Winners of history. James, master of rewriting, said Olivia, read my collection. What if the British stopped being contemporary fools? I don't just the history, said James, going somewhere shaken, insecure. One of the secrets and weapons of hell was the living seed crystal, with time turned into a treant. Ancient treant Alucard Wilsall Thicket was a treant. He could make growth change season and wither bloom in seconds. You had to be clear. Alucard could be literal or philosophical and was about beautiful action, not words. Humanoid tree form, faceless chiseled face, he grew a red beard in the summer that turned deep blue with impatience in autumn, with dryads renting room. His defense could not be tested. What do they pay with? Different acorns. I like planting trees. I have the patience to watch them grow. It was crazy Alucard could turn into a 50 by 50 meter wooden estate in 30 seconds. They used this when adventuring, gathering islands on the sea, and to sleep. I shall not lit a fire. You can lit my leftovers, leaves related to summer on fire, He told them to be balanced with nature, to be sustainable with environments, to return and be one with it. You are not a machine ghost. A 70 times 30 meter ship as well, with rosy flowers and huge thorns where need be. Exceptionally tanky over-offensive Alucard would outlive anyone 2,000 years, and was resistant against everything, even fire. This is not a $2 matchbox. Although the feeling he personally disliked being on fire like being wet. He was intelligent but more mystical and wise, concerned with balance of species to nature, fit well with James. Naturistic intelligence. He had healing wisps whispering peace and hopefully didn't get squished, you know. You are leaking. It's supposed to be like that, echoed his deep, more like hard-to-speak voice. A hint of humor was noticed afterwards. Folk that would usually like visiting Alucard were sprites, lightly dressed ocean blue and different shades of blinding pink, nature spirits related and allied to elves, defensive dryads again and confused druids. Alucard, a squirrel told me it is always safe gathering nuts for winter, he's got it figured out. He had spots on him for rosebushes and blueberries. Makes me smell nice as well, I make antioxidants against the sun and enzymes against bacteria. You humans eat this to be the healthiest. I wouldn't eat you. Not vegan enough answer. A ship Zarazetanut came around the rocks firing. Everyone seemed to have a wooden leg, maybe because the captain did. They won't like this molten giant bombard, they said, but as they fired Alucard morphed into a treant form. He launched with his crew, grappling to the side. His strong arms broke the wood around their mast savagely, tilting it into the sea. A pirate twacked a rum bottle, Havana Club Q, and lit it intelligently on fire on his back. Alucard was deeply startled and pushed his right oak arm into his stomach. then expanded until he was a human mace. The human mace exploded into a cutlass person too, and the blood extinguished the fire. Alucard fought fiercely, a temper of the tree ants like certainty of the earth. They got hit like by trees falling over, houses collapsing, unsafe construction sites. They put a giant bombard against Alucard again, but James thought with arrogant fire magic to make it explode inside the barrel. The pirates exploded like vulnerable to explosives. James was cornering Captain Double Legs. He was a fat pirate with excellent defense, cutlass and black braided beard. He had one wooden leg. Captain Double Legs. James and Double Legs aimed and fired a black powder pistol at the same time. Double Legs had a stronger gun and it hit James sloppily in the shoulder, piercing his absolute defense. Skillfully, Double Legs shifted into a more defensively absolute unit. More black and his piercing thrusts would have gone through someone else's. He had threatening overhead slashes, and at his feet, James caught his foot in a rope going upwards with the mast, but he cut it across. James had to really overpower him, and just as always a more skilled swordsman, he had to take things up a gear. James bellowed had ORSOF that knocked him back. He lost his cutlass, and flipped him about and cut through his pants in a 12-cut strike. He got a worse weapon instead and looked ready to defend his life. Begone ere our baguettes fly. Shiver me Italian whiskey. I can pierce any pirate's cutlass defense. You're in lethal range of my muskets. He raised his cutlass a final time, but James gathered piercing power and rail-gunned it with his voice like Egyptian undead. The explosion was like something unbelievable alien, and it changed the colors and hue. All right, we surrender. They were Italians from New Florence. Follow me to the cabin. A gold overflowing to the roof, well in just coin, rum and Italian whiskey. Walcher cabin. Every pirate who had fit into the room took a glass and sipped. They were considered now for this diplomacy, so related to necromancy. They were frisk and cheeky, yet considered with reaches of manner like one can have without being very intelligent, not for long anyway. Only a real ENTP gets annoyed at the lack of true diplomacy in debates or politics. You have a scraggly, dirty quartermaster, ACCH, he is drunk asleep and yet insulting thus. Insulting a man's scraggly quartermaster is worse than insulting his ship. I see you have loot here from the French, should have banked. Spare us half the rum and whiskey and we'll give you the location of the treasure dead ivory. It's around here somewhere. I've seen it. You've seen the chest or all its marks. No, I think I've seen the horns of the demon. Everyone was taken aback yet solid in logic. We shall take the French cheese and coffee, said Napoleon Rebloshin. Smells like mimolette. Yeah, it does, said James. He ate a rectangle like chewing of carrot by a beaver. This is stupid. How do I steal against people now? Italian accent, I have got to make a living. He said it like they were unfair and versed in a logic to himself, pushing him to his limit yet pushing him for others. Yeah, you can forget stealing from the French now, said James, inspecting a wineglass robust. With the strongest muscle, I've beaten several dragons and raided Dragon's Nest. Dragon's Nest. The Italians in the room danced superstitiously and spit 3 times. There was spit everywhere. No grave but the sea. Harridan herring and toffee apes. Life is peachy and Scottish. Barnacle nipples and harpy butter. Better to shit in the sink than sink in the shit. What? Under the seas no one wears hats. We need diplomacy between Italia France now, or there shall be invasion. Invasion, proclaimed Doublelegs. The diplomacy held on fibre of insults. The islands were busy making the best coffee, some with the same price of produce, which is just capitalistic insanity, unless people weren't willing to pay. They had scientists and caffeine addicts analyze the perfect coffee. A broad area for research was crossbreeding beans, which James would now uptake. Cross beans, why not just mix them straight in the coffee, James said. Another insight was any coffee tastes twice as good if you have drunk for 3 to 4 days, you're addicted. The flavor becomes exalting and golden. Let's breed some new flavors with genetics. Cheap and flavored filters he came up with, flavored coffee like with aromas he remembered from the future. He thought of inventing a coffee that tasted like a dessert, just the right coffee flavor and you added sugar and cream. Now what would that be? Something already rich and fat, James decided. James introduced Napoleon to iced coffee or coffee with sugars or sweetness. He promised his people were completely addicted by this. Cold coffee is just dessert flavor orientation, Napoleon said. I feel like I'm mixing cake. We don't have to. It can just be bitter and fat flavors. Anyway, caramel can be combined with chocolate and dark coffee. I thought caramel for aristocrat kids. They might be good customers. Olivia and me are working on a special coffee oat milk frosted to -90°C. We'll cool down the coffee with less, maximum coffee taste. I like my coffee mixed with milks until sweeter. I like my rotisserie chicken rotating at 300 miles per hour. James tend to bravely ignore the times the chicken dissimulates. Strawberry raspberry chocolate coffee and chocolate and kiwi's fruity coffee. What about ground salted pretzels? Make any shape you'd like, mate. James went water skating. It was a lot like ice skating, you moved the same over the water with pretty expensive, also magical, dwarven devices. When far enough in Les Saints Lagoon he could fish crabs and sea urchins. Sea urchins were always so upset when taken away or beaten, so confident in their defense, crunching with their white-like beaks. There are like lawnmowers against starfish and plants under the sea. Here infestations unbalance the equation. He met a meter-long surface anglerfish, red, white and green eyes, so ugly like it had its face punched in. It was cool though and let him pick urchins. James enjoyed the heat swimming slowly in the crystal clear water and saw their holy coral reefs, not damaged yet. Later in the day after Olivia's spicy crab sushi, James went for pirate revolver duels, a gambling western-like game. Two pirates enter in a downed wooden arena, the one that pulls and shoots his revolver first and hits heart or head wins. The bullets are seafoam rubber. James practiced and practiced, had lightning skills. He usually won because of his cat-like reflexes, but people here at Surly Boots Pharmacy gambling and accounting didn't have normal reflexes. He confided in the shipwright, heard rumors from the barman and got slapped by a servitor. He got a drink reliable and made for him for free. He met Captain Forehead. There are ships that insists on faring these waters, cognac cogs of contemporary coin. The British are barely pirates in their presumptuousness. The profit must be worth it. They are like frog eggs being eaten by lobsters. You must take their alcohol, spiffing. The trick is to convert their redcoats with terrible conditions and flagging for every vocacious flaunt. He had 3 eye patches with his 4 eyes, and being half runic Harridan, the merchant and banker race, he had blue horns. He was as beefy as James, yet more compact and connected. His forehead looked like a brick was protruding. Your forehead isn't just for show, is it natural? I don't know. Harridans black out easily from alcohol. Makes me ram heads like a genius. So you guys don't drink too much. What do you mean? There was a loss, broken communication and realigning considered after some time. Are you a captain? My gang, the drowned pirates, are hearty and true saltwater sweating deck apes. I would go with them into an endless journey of lucrativeness. Maybe you shall. Yes, my forehead is natural. This is not the first person you ask that, is it? Indeed, man of forehead and foresight. The English are reinforcing their redcoats, armoring their ships like they're going to break ice. It might not actually be worth it to broadside or sink ships. What are your cannon costs? You must board and make them surrender quickly. Wipe the deck with superior brawling. I shall tie them to the mast and surrender their colors, to sell a ship unhurt to shipwrights in a pirate port. To shoot the cannons yet not heard the design. Maybe just disarm their cannons with magic or shoot them in the barrel. Could use culverins for that, couldn't you? They don't do any damage, do they? You have room on your ships for a few extra cannons. There are falconets on my ship, horse artillery, French heavy cannons not designed unless for a siege. Where are the horses from your horse artillery? He didn't answer him annoyingly, but instead said, I want to find the 4 treasures in the giant temple dungeons of the natives. Their rum is fair and lucrative. To make an entire island system French from the barbarian, make myself governor and surround myself with the most excellent harridans. I don't feel true allegiance to the French being a personality of the sidelines. I mean, I am conscious of it, yet make a decision to remain on the sidelines every conversation. It is succulent subconscious. I am an NTP pirate too. I went to the personality seer. She is never wrong, just concerned with your role in obedient society. She told what cement mixer I am too. I think she might be sponsored. I am a Charles Bentley 140L cement mixer. The sidelines are intellectual and the dreams intellectually ambitious. I feel so free in the emotions of my dreams, a reality true and pure to motivate me on my quests. The best seer in Einhenger is sponsored, so I've heard. You can differentiate the part as the sponsored, right? Your quests to brawl in every French bar. How's that going, mate? I had to pay to fix the carnival bar. Doesn't matter. I was ready to goon being versed in slapping grins like someone stupid. You're a brute and stupid in philosophy. Really? I am stupid in my decisions. You say you are stupid, but you don't mean it. Maybe you shouldn't listen to haunting harridans and belligerent brutes. No, I'm stupid. Philosophy is never stupid. You're right, you can see my intelligence and I can creatively too. I am not used to following my edges and details. Maybe it will improve my Bardcore album. Bardcore album. There needs to be another, more forehead hours, the history of the wrinkles. You could call it forehead core, certainly not the worst core genre ever conceived, surmised. Seers tell of metalcore and deathcore, the whiniest proceedings, cowardly riffs and tear-jerking falling down the stairs, fattest, ugliest singers. If you're a fat, ugly deathcore growler, you sing better actually, just listen to. The critics will all unite against the core. It will change music as we love and know it. The apple is good except for the core. It did spawn alien core through, reasoned James, being fair and in his library of knowledge. What's that? Walls are closing in deathcore with alien themes. You're brutal if you like it. Captain, forehead was much like Nathan Explosion. I was turned into a chicken for 10 years. Gotten quite used to grasslands and sitting on a perch, did you know? I wouldn't have pressed the issue. I was trying to rid the dark wizards of their tower and dungeon of forgotten task list. They said it would be impossible to access the final room. I listened to my greed and coughs of assertiveness. Count your success, don't spend the treasure too fast. I get nervous when I'm not in a dungeon. I want to fight you in the name of slapping. No you don't, you are a gym personality type, but you cannot beat a Harridan in as true as a bar is made of wood or brick. He meant it. A game of arm wrestling, if I win you have to tell me your ambition. You can't always say the philosophy of reality and gritty no intuition is superior. James farted, which put him off balance. They were powerful and shouldery. It seems no arms went much in any direction. If the power could be converted into a slap, someone would have been grievously injured. The size and logistics of their arms like hard for an imagination, a game of the most sturdy gym grit. Someone would have said I can beat, but they were no less giant in heart. Do you want to give up? Yeah, this seat is hard on my ass like a rock. They gave up perfectly evenly. I'm getting tired and I want to go bank something precious. The stop like the aftermatch could rip someone's hand off and going deep into limits of their body, like where someone can go too far. We have a musician that travels the world for beer, we get him to do pirating. A week later he had faced up the quickest draws one after one with 900% interest. It was shorter to aim your pistol to the heart than head, he thought. Despite bullets being rubber, he thought of ideas of different one-shotters, that really one shot. James found himself in a free-for-all. How do you figure this out? It's just like a bunch of nomads fight over a gold pit. Don't be aggressive, the more are, let them fight themselves. Monologue about diplomacy. Undead rapscallion tiny tentacle face fell down in smoke as he clutched his stomach. James, after practicing duels, had gotten his reflexes down to 15 milliseconds. Bugger, bugger, quadruple wanker, bugger. Congratulations, you beat rapscallion and the house take this dwarven hellclast, face remover. A heavy, long shotgun-looking pirate revolver with mahogany wood and half the metal plated and some corals was given. Still long reload. No need to fight as this blows off their face, just like a butt wizard, just like on the label. Maybe there comes a second sea dog. Fixed shot pattern, well a rectangle, magical elven crystal blue flu powder with magical battery French Dutch. I'll conserve my energy like the dead on a couch. 1 of 15 pieces of 8. Drunk on shots, Dutch captain failed to complete his sentence once, then said, down with arrogant French coffee. And shot a pirate pistol under the table. Let's try this. James, in just impenetrable absolute unit shining black, then aimed the hellclast fully reaching his face, kablam. The class made a huge blue explosion and the captain laid face smoking feet up in the bar. Hooray, the bar went in and started drinking again. It's the Irish rum that separates us from animals. A pirate twacked a whiskey bottle over his head like lounging. James took the long orange spitz drink and went observing the capybara island, part hot tub, part overgrowing island next to the bar stools. The capybaras loved the hotness and had oranges on their heads.
And people put oranges on their
James
heads.
would drink yet focus on gather information, learning about latest shipwriting and add-ons like the bronze far-reaching new cannon, the smelling crew spells in a slippery soap on the outside bottle, new hammocks technology for confined greed. Both England and Italia both worked on the biggest 5-cannon vertical row ships that would be sure to destroy anything. They toiled intelligently, spending every buck, careering and shipwriting. Are you sure, Jimmy James lad? Paragalos, the British colony, has never been so illegally tempting, weak and rich. Plunder awaits like a rum bottle floated home. James convinced every honest pirate to attack, putting the Paragalos defense on its heels. Almost as many men, they survived most of the pirates and were licking their wounds as French ship of the line, Genevieve with 48 guns and French flags, turned the corner. They had 2 star shooters as well, black dwarven super heavy bombards. The super bombard cut up the docks and base defense. It was just cannon fire, that had to be won. Through they had to tank shots from the long-range defense towers. They had towers with cannons for about a minute. French pirates came charging from the bottom with a cannon rolled. Red-coated heavy musketeers bayoneted and formed, versus pirates with one-shot revolvers, fashionable, singularly fashionable. Servants of English pints. They were well-mannered not to hurt too many civilians, used to this game, and went straight for the governmental buildings and governor. A beautiful hourglass brunette, Olivia, governor's daughter, said, bloody pirates as they approached British high culture. She is so rich her freckles are gold. James went, look, there's a governor's daughter, don't shoot. She was pushed into the group, struggling thus into James' arms. I won't be rough, "You're safe around my biceps," proclaimed towering James, looking down. "Pirates might have ripped jewelry off her neck. I'm exceedingly cactus jackass Jack. Shove a cannonball up your cunt, James. Help me, less thick accented French person. I'm a mercenary and pirate," he said, considering Creed. "This is the most dangerous time to be a government's daughter, even more than choosing the coffee room decor." Out came the main military and treasure guards. They were dressed in red and white British colours, some hard leather, some steel cuirass and axes, some blue and white Scottish. On they fought with bombardment of pistols, cannons rolled forwards and caught many people in the stomach. Fierce piracy was met with guarding nationalism, sword fights were long as everyone just blocked. Pirates winning went 2-on-1. They were fencing armorless pirates, except for the sentinel pirates, having magical and steel armor mix. Our quartermaster Jeremy was making mincemeat and empanadas of the enemy, carrying a new hand cannon, more cannon than hand cannon. He was an elite pirate. James punched people into the air. They were honest spectacles of red and white and would all land at the same time. James saw the governor in the background, fat and in a green silky suit. James used his teleport powers short-ranged and low on stamina, to the surprise of the governor. "For the money," James said like an accountant and plucked the man under his arm like lightweight. "I'll pay you 1,000 quid if you abduct me somewhere safe. Oh dear, we have not protected any new resource. We focused on beautiful growth and reinvested exponentially. Can you pay 10 times more?" said James, surprisingly negotiable. A side-switching mercenary. "Well, I'm not prepared to pay more than 2,000. I'm not worth it." "Good to have an honest opinion," James went on to his pirates confidently. "I always wanted to have a wig like this," said a thin triangle-jawed pirate and nicked his hair. "You look beautiful." "Lock him in the captain's room," said the pirate quartermaster and rumkeep. "I want to be imprisoned with my father," said the daughter. "Seal them in together, and prevent their impending escape. We don't want to lose any leverage," said James like a real ENTP pirate, like Jack Sparrow is portrayed, thorough and confusing. The intuition makes sense to them like correlated math. They are really intuitive, a world other people cannot access compared to spiritual. Jens had farted so bad the governor's shirt buttons all unbuckled, his suit and garments all split, his hair turned unkempt and greasy. He was speechless. The captain of the guard blocked their way into the treasure vault, which was in a white guard tower. He too had a fancy shirt and a white wig with an opulent rapier. "I am a master fencer, riddle me a man full of holes." Thus they fenced as speedily as the eye can see. James was busy with his light weapon, the stabbing rapier, and thought to grab a sword next time and cut through. "Silly little thing, better freeze it. Why don't you trip over some dicks? Did you know fencing with rapiers is called fencing with dicks?
Gems.
Have a nice trip," he said like he was firing him from a cannon. Oof. Olivia had sealed the deal by picking up a cannonball and throwing it into the stomach of the captain. James thought there was no sound, but it looked like it had been fired from a cannon. Olivia then picked him up with 2 arms, then slapped him with his 2 others until submission. "Stop dying, you can't take a cannonball." The circular keep was gilded with treasure, resources that could be turned into coffee, wine, whiskey, chocolate and cigars, blue Jamaican. "I can stand smoking these if I can have Cuban later," said Olivia. "Please, my beloved, I am supposed to protect the governor's daughter." "Put him into a cannon," said James with an insane eye. In the Coffee Bean Islands, there were magical man cannons, black dwarven of course, that could shoot someone a quarter across the islands but didn't shoot destructive cannonballs as a resort. The captain got shuffled ass first, only hands and feet sticking out. "French people cannot make coffee. H. He screamed in fear. And almost instantly he was shot onto Chinese waters. The cannon didn't make much sound but left blue light powder in the air. "Quite a mouth on that one," said Olivia. "Yeah, did you hear he was charming the gov daughter?" responded James. Then he went to charm the governor's daughter. James didn't sell the place to France, but the Spanish, and when they had settled and they raided everything again, took their treasure vault pretending to be penniless corsairs. Some of the treasure was still being shipped, so they found the treasure line and boarded them, leaving the treasure ships intact, slow but well armed, and sold them, and then finally made it a new French outpost. Joining them on the raids freely was pirate Blackbeard. He looked goatee and goated, young and undamaged. He had hints of greatness, but his deeds were not yet done. He didn't have a black beard through, everyone called him thus, but he had the widest black moustache going to his ears like knives instead, and black stubble. Enemies seemed to fall before him like rag dolls, as he had 1 pistol more and stabbed for them thus. 1 eternal pistol and rapier. "You're too brutal, Blackbeard, so you cannot wrench the world you know." Blackbeard was really to push his agenda, and cruel mistakes not at normal reason, but worse moments. What devious plot did he have, ready to move the territories? He will be known as the deadly slaughter mist who only moved when he had to. The next day, the governor's daughter seemed to leave him for her main gig. She had been poor to communicate. They were perfect for each other, just like the rich can be slick. Our fates have been intertwined, but never braided. Damn it, I need someone whose secrets doesn't hurt me. James practiced his teleporting but also saved some mana on the bigger jumps with vials. He found Sabrina concerned and fascinated with the post office on Earth. First, I teleported to Schmet and Shekels banks by accident. Do you want to join me on Nagas and Coves? I have been waiting for an adventure like this, sure, she smiled. He felt really good, overstimulated hugging her, but at least it wasn't nervous perverse like you can get from depression. She was endearing and cute, pink death too as always. She had reshaped her horns. James didn't know you could do that with a popular haircut spell, into 1 decimeter straight, then slightly curved back horns. Cut 8 times slightly like a garlic baguette. Enter French coffee base. Rebluchon said, are you safe with population and animals? I do expect nothing bad from you, James interjected, half confident. If you're a good person, you're always in control. I have to say, James, you procured the hottest from the dating show. Fancy, said Sabrina. Fancy, said James. Wow, this tastes so much better than the burnt Italian stuff in hell. I don't have to force it down. Like coffee, like a cute habit, but I have never tasted something delicacy. Some go their entire life without delicacy coffee. Here's an idea, James said as ENTP, an automatic reheating spell with the coffee. We should sell it as a machine maybe. What about a tasteless reheating cube, said Olivia. What about putting the coffee mug on a reheating platform shaped like commercials? Get on it. I think I will go on a treasure hunt and get rid of the siren in the cove. She's eating our crew and transportation. Yes, she keeps eating the mail runners and lighter ships. If you go on Friday, I will clear it as working hours. They went through the beach of bodybuilders. There was a wide-shouldered view of, well, everyone really looked the same. There were gym bros, female beefy athletes that were exposed to so many egos, views. Like the tropical birds, not to mention those in proximity, they were all dancing, getting no response. They sold pirate protein shakes with rum and pirate protein bars. The boothman fitted in, giving charm and trustworthiness, thus he looked just like the others. They surrounded them. James wondered first why he felt such intimidating energy, but then he realized it was because they were going for Sabrina. How are you doing in this fine weather, ma'am? He was a bulky pirate. He had top 1% strength genetics and fitting endurance because he was so broad, the impression of a boxer too big. Do you want a protein shake? They asked James. James was like, I'm in a proper state. It has been half a day and I have only eaten 100 grams of protein. He pitched the pitcher from the side and downed 100 grams frantically, gulping like a seagull. Grams of white protein trickled down his muscle cheeks like vitamins. It exited his mind, turned into necessity. He thought of carbohydrates, not like a fattening pasta or soluble fiber, but as a fuel with one purpose, for his muscles to work, like it was the only fuel. He should have thought it is not as noticeable. It is not a slathering of honey nor very exceeding while exceeding diet. But he had been gimming on a calorie deficit, sharpening abs like a baguette by a moustached blacksmith, barely fitting into the apron. It is as painful as fever in the joints. Maybe he should have thought he gets used to it. At some point the resistance is like a faint thought. To walk or run to lose weight on a calorie deficit is more like getting used to distance running, or running at all, the sedation of layers getting used. That's what James had done. Being a stomping, crunching runner is getting used to the layers of resistance, until an hour is just a number, and the arrogance is increasing your weekly load. Did you know me and the boys are the biggest here? There were secondary short haircut stubble sides boys, considerable like another B movie. I doubt that. You need to prove it by getting me 100 sea urchins. I'm not stupid, you're only saying that to get rid of me. For some reason, he said this with confidence. You have small calves. He scurried away like someone had insulted his ship. The stubble-side wide-faced degenerate friend didn't say anything. He looked at him with slacks. There were bodybuilders greasy with glimmer in their eyes, eating meat off the bone, cylinders of animals and muscles designed to pull in one direction. Do you want an Odin's hammer, wrapped in bacon and grilled on the free-for-all grill? If you're a bodybuilder, said Sabrina. He spoke ambitiously in a system. I mustn't let up my protein intake in the hotel or traveling. I bought mini grills. He was getting meat like medicine, counting every 20 grams of protein and standards of gimming. He's in the system, the cholesterol system. He only knows meat, normal like milk products. I can't eat milk products. We must get him out. James put on sunglasses. Milk makes your bones more brittle, not better. But milk has complete protein and impossible to bake without. Vegan baking is on the rise. So you're saying it's bad right now? Milk has calicum, said the capitalist, but its acidic content makes your body alkalize with bones, making them less dense. It also has saturated fat, which is one of the worst possible things you could eat, like in inflammation. It's got effects like fried poison. I can realize I need to counter the saturated fat with green stuff to have half my diet acceptable. I just need to say the healthiest available information for you to make the decision yourself. It is true you need protein intake 180 grams or whatever lifting scrap, but never being told it should be green could result in many diseases, and quality of life like someone living their last years, resistance and no focus. You don't know what you're missing, like one could imagine 10 out of 10 health to be. It is amazing. Focus and feeling, like a fountain of youth and things you don't feel, but are very optimal. It is like being depressed without it, I notice when going back to normal. They entered a skull 11 by 11 meters mouth of Maui cut out over a cove next to Buana Island. We might see the Weddell seal. Seal the deal with a zealous seal. Of course it's an underwater entrance. They emerged slimy against wandering long-armed jellyfish. On land they walked on meter-long 2 arms and stunned mercilessly with the third. As they came and stunned James, he channeled it with lightning magic, then retorted in a blast that sundered him all, loud like cracking sky. I hear of nasty greater green variants, monstrous jellyfish, laying dormant as a trap, with something like sight. Sabrina hugged James, attracted by the adventure. You were one big muscly deadly conduit. She saw through his brains through not just his physique. She didn't know it, but was maybe as smart, a real clever succubus, yet there was a place carved out for her. There was a catacomb of doors, halls and rooms. But plenty of beautiful colors. There were corals on the walls, fishes of all colors of the rainbow. Those are some big sea urchins. They blocked the exit 1 by 1 meters in a room of varying sizes. Purple and black they crawled, worryingly, industrious. If you speed up a camera you see they're concerned like a predator, delicious salty taste of the sea. I can detonate them, said Sabrina knowledgeable. Drink this overload mana vial. Succubuses are really good at fire magic. Soon every 1 meter sea urchin detonated like a minefield. Don't detonate my nuts, James said like a squirrel. In the next room were giant clams. Based on your strength you could get the treasure. Watch this. With monstrous strength James opened one just with his arms, shaky arms. They're sapphire and emerald in small rectangles. The next 2 rooms were desolate and empty, then another one with a 10-meter clam. This one wouldn't budge like a goat. I can't get it open. That's one hell of a pinch. James charged blood magic for 30 seconds then. Kebab after a drunk Wednesday strength. He wrenched open the clam with impossible power, half a meter. The muscles and movement didn't align with the results. It sounded like wrought steel. Do you want to get in there? That pearl is opulent. Succubus suction, she said mischievously. The half-meter pearl was sucked. In a room they could silver insects like a flying larva with pipe mouth. Kitchen destroyers. This nasty bug will suck out your mana and stamina. There was a pool of hammerhead sharks, hammerhead in a cross and tail that is a Swiss knife. Called bottle opener sharks. They had to traverse the water. The water was for some scrupulous purpose for the fishmen. They didn't seem too bothered by the party. They swam gliding like ghosts. There was a black, white 5 meters pufferfish that they were anxiously, laser-focused, watching deeply. It was breathing nervously but didn't engage. The other sharks feared it like cowardly, beyond how brave it was perhaps. In an even longer corridor they met thick fishmen with circular saw hands and anglerfish heads. You will fall before the siren. These treasures are to lust you before our den. Don't fight me. I am the supreme slayer Atlational. We trust in your build. You must be enhanced. Normal humans don't go above that muscle level. One of them had balls that seemed to breathe like gills hanging on his face cheeks. Where is the siren anyway? Keep going east. They gave it away with his casualness. A few rooms later, after blubber jellyfish and poisonous shelled snails, they met 2 fishmen carrying a treasure chest heavy. We promise we didn't kill any men. Wonder if they did, thought Sabrina as she lit everything on fire. They smoldered and engulfed in flame like leaves. Fire tsunami. Great, put the chest in my magically confined bag. I can feel something now through.
That's not a lot to do with that.
They fought a giant crab humanoid with crab arms so muscular that they were crippling his heart. They carried from the west. Enter Siren's room. They came upon a huge beautiful crusty ship in a 150 by 150 meter room. It seemed sunkern and fit 5 times as many animals, including barnacles. The 25 meters high, 25 by 100 meter ship was gargantuan. I welcome you to Moby Dick. Your treasure will gleam as will your intestines. A 4-meter maiden, an attractive pale mermaid-looking siren, looked upon them with a trident. She had a light starfish haircut and large nude breasts. I blocked any attempts for her to get into your mind.